Good afternoon. I want to thank everybody who joins us. My name is Olga Atamanova, and Ukraine Media Center Ukrinform starts its operation today. It's day 344 of the full-scale invasion of the Russian aggressor, and I traditionally want to thank the representatives of all the mass media who tell the world the truth about our fight for freedom. Today we will bring up the important topic, the children and the war. I want to introduce our speaker today. It's Yaroslav Shanko, the Deputy Head of Juvenile Prevention Directorate of the National Police of Ukraine. Good afternoon, Mr. Yaroslav. Good afternoon. Well, it's almost 1 year of the full-scale invasion, the year 9 of the war, and our children unfortunately end up under these circumstances. Under the circumstances of massive missile strikes, shellings, they live along the front lines. What are the results? What is the aftermath of all this? Well, the issue of children's security is of utmost importance during this wartime, and notwithstanding the international organizations calling for the security of the children, the crimes committed by Russian Federation against Ukrainian children only increases. As of today, the occupiers killed 459 children and 1,018 are injured. In Donetsk region, the Russian criminals killed 176 children, 86 in Kharkiv region, 23 in Chernihiv, and so on and so forth. At the same time, we cannot say the number of children who received psychological trauma, who lost their closed ones, their relatives. The police is facing the new challenges in terms of protecting the children's security from the beginning of the war. Our priority area is creating the secure environment for children in the circumstances of the constant threat. We try to identify the children missing, and we try to help those affected by the war. For the purposes of evacuation of children from the area of active warfare from the Donetsk region, the team White Angel, which includes the representatives of Juvenile Prevention Directorate, and in joint cooperation with the Kharkiv facility for manufacturing of personal protection equipment, which provided children's personal protection equipment like body armors and helmets and the armored vehicle. Everything was used by the National Police for evacuation of children in all the areas where it was necessary. The body armor looks just like military one, but they are of motley colors with pockets for notes from the parents or some paperwork. They are way lighter, weighing up to 2 kilograms, and developed specifically for the children. Their main task is to protect children from shrapnel. So evacuation of children is one of the top priority tasks for national police in the area of active warfare. So we try to spread that practice over other regions where active warfare is still going on. In view of the fact that the territory of Ukraine is contaminated with the explosive devices, Juvenile police conducts some prevention works and explanation in terms of work and identification of explosive devices, so the children don't become the victims of explosions of such explosive devices. And within its competences, the National Police renews and updates the platform Children of War, coordinated by the President of Ukraine, for identification of and search for missing children. Starting from implementation of the martial law in Ukraine, as of today, National Police received 9,631 applications about the 9,364 missing children. including those who were missing in the area of active warfare. Juvenile prevention takes all necessary steps for activization of search of missing children by having created the chatbot used in Telegram application for facilitation of submission of applications about the missing children. At the same time, the juvenile police takes efforts for improvement of the search system by creating the branched out and consolidated system of communicating information about missing children, by forwarding the notices and notifications, but by push notifications through application and short message service. We work with Glovo, Uklov, Opti, Kyivstar, Taxi 838. So we work actively in this area. So we use all technical options so the Ukrainian citizens are able to report about the missing children. We achieved agreement with the international organization Reunite Ukraine for creation of the mobile application, which will be aimed at the search of the missing children by comparing the information, specifically the images of the children. The works are still in progress on this application. At the same time, I can mention that the juvenile police continues implementation of the security initiatives for covering humanitarian needs of the families with children in cooperation with volunteers, so we can provide aid to all those in need. In cooperation with the company or organization Atmospheric School, we provide education for the children who need social protection, who are in difficult life conditions, including those internally displaced or affected by the warfare, by provision of free of charge education. It's a private educational institution, and we consolidated efforts with them, and we implemented this program for free education, free access to education for the children of such category, the vulnerable category of children. Yaroslav, you mentioned the evacuation of children, specifically from the areas of active warfare. How many children were evacuated starting from the 24th of February, from the beginning of the full-scale invasion? We now focus more on those children who remain there, because we need to work with those families. For example, in Bakhmut, there was news today on the mass media that there are still 179 children remaining there. The evacuation teams keep working to deliver, to communicate the information about the importance of evacuation, importance of ensuring security for the children, so that all the children end up in secure conditions. We understand that 179 children in Bakhmut, it's a very big figure. Does police have any authorization? Are they entitled to continue their work in terms of communication, the information, the necessity of evacuation to their families? Oh yes, such works are in progress all the time, but there are problems. The people only evacuate by their will. Police takes all necessary efforts to ensure the security of all the children in terms of the threat posed by the warfare. We use body armor and helmets, as I mentioned. We take all necessary, all reasonable efforts to protect the children. Yesterday, all the mass media was shaken by the crime that was committed against the girls by the young man from Ivano-Frankivsk. Do the police know already if among those affected, among those girls, are there anyone below 18 years? Well, the crime was documented. the persons received the notice of suspicion. The proceedings already started. The investigation already started, but we don't have any information about the presence of any persons below 18 years. Dear colleagues, please go ahead with your questions. Yulia Mali, Ukrinform, do you document any crimes committed by the children below 18 years? And if you have any figures, for example, comparing to last year, well, from the beginning of the full-scale invasion, well, the police keeps working 24/7. We document crimes committed by anybody, either majors or minors. But as to the nature of the crimes committed by the minors, I don't have these figures at hand right now, but usually the crimes committed by the minors are of property nature. We document everything. It's like something like robberies, but the martial law creates additional burden, but nobody canceled our daily work. Mike Swunder, Reuters, does police have any suspicion that some part or some significant part of those children missing are being deported by Russia, that they're being transferred to Russian political or by Russian state, and then being handed for adoption by Russian families? Do you have any suspicions like of that kind? Well, I can say that the proceedings as to deportation of Ukrainian children by Russian Federation are in progress. We don't have any facts so far because the pre-proceedings investigation is still in progress, but there is the information platform Children of the War, which accumulates all the information about the missing children from all the government agencies. It contains information about the children who are deported, and there is information of with the relevant figures about the children who were already returned. There are indicators of crime, and we initiate the criminal proceedings and pre-court investigation immediately as we identify any such facts. But unfortunately I cannot disclose any specific cases to you. Good afternoon, Elena Rybinska, Channel 5. Mr. Yaroslav, I have two questions. How difficult it is to return the children who are in temporarily occupied Crimea or deported to Russia? How difficult is that process? We know about the process with prisoners of war, and it's extremely difficult. But about the minors who cannot communicate the information about themselves due to the stress, that's the first question about the difficulty of the process. And after return from Russia, after the return of temporarily occupied territories, what is the work that we conduct with the children and with their families, and how juvenile police is involved in that process? Well, as to the procedure of returning, for example, example of exchange of prisoners of war is regulated by Geneva Convention, but in terms of deported children, it's even more important. It's extremely important because, again, if we get back to this platform Children of War, we see that there is very insignificant percentage of children who were returned to Ukraine after deportation. Since those mechanisms are still in, so to say, in development, as I mentioned before, Russian Federation does not comply with the international law, international legislation. We feel it very difficult to conduct such return. and juvenile police actually doesn't, well, is not deeply involved because it's the responsibility of the Ministry of Reintegration. All the social services, I mean, as to your second question, all the social services include and juvenile prevention are being involved in the process of rehabilitation and readaptation after children return from abroad, after they return from deportation. All those issues are being worked over, and one of the most important matters is ensuring of this social assistance after a person gets back from deportation. If there was such a fact, it will result in criminal proceedings, in relevant investigation, and using all the opportunities and instruments available to police and social services, we forward them to that specific matter. Well, you mentioned the number of children who perished due to Russian aggression. We understand that those figures are still incomplete because we have temporarily occupied territories. For example, as to Mariupol, which is occupied, so we can only imagine the number of people, including children, who perished there. If you get any notifications, if you get any news that nobody knows where children ended up after yet another shelling, another strike, how do you document those children? Are they missing in action? Or yes, obviously, if we don't have if we have some confirmed information that a child perished as a result of shelling, that will result in initiation of criminal proceedings according to Article 115, intentional murder. So we will take all reasonable efforts to identify the place of death, and after relevant expertise, we have understanding that they perished. But if we don't have any confirmation, we initiate the criminal proceeding as to the Article 438, and all the notifications, including from the occupied territories. If we have this information, all the information will be relevantly documented and verified using all available instruments, I mean the access to the territory, in case we have it. So all the crimes happening over there, if people report from the temporarily occupied territories about any crimes, yes, police obviously documents all of them, and we take all necessary measures for mitigation. Thank you, Mr. Yaroslav. Dear colleagues, I'm reminding you, joining us was Yaroslav Shanko, Deputy Head of Juvenile Prevention, Directorate of National Police. And our next briefing is at 14:30. Joining us will be Vitaly Kim, the military governor of Mykolaiv. So bear with us, trust in our armed